Council. I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me start with my conclusion for our last debate. This war will not end until the 59 remaining innocent hostages are released and Hamas is driven from Gaza. Yet, every few days, this Council convenes again to address the situation in Gaza, and every time the same pattern unfolds. Hamas commits an atrocity, Israel takes action to defend ourselves, and somehow the story that gets told in this room is upside down. Allow us to set the record straight. Take the incident on March 23 concerning the Red Crescent. Inside those vehicles, which are supposed to save lives, were active Hamas terrorists. 9 terrorists were eliminated, including Muhammad Amin Ibrahim Shubaki, a Hamas terrorist who directly took part in the October 7th massacre. I ask you, Mr. El-Khatib, what he was doing there? What he was doing in an ambulance, a Hamas terrorist who was in Israel on October 7th. Why he was connected to that? What is the connection between humanitarian work and terrorists of Hamas? Israel mourns the loss of innocent life wherever it takes place. We especially mourn the loss of any humanitarian workers. There must be, however, a reframing of the approach this Council and humanitarian agencies are taking. How did 9 Hamas terrorists find themselves traveling inside Red Crescent ambulances in the middle of the night? The presence of those terrorists puts everyone's lives at risk. If we really want to protect civilians and humanitarian workers, the vetting system of such organization must improve immediately. Otherwise, we will find more taxpayer money in the pockets of terrorists and more innocent lives in danger. As I have said, we are investigating all of those incidents, and we respect the work of UN personnel. However, this Council must acknowledge the infiltration of some agencies and their activities by bad actors. A prime example of the need for better vetting was discovered just 2 weeks ago. A UN worker was being treated in Israel, and something deeply disturbing was uncovered. This man had Nazi tattoos across both his arms. On one arm, as you can see, the man had the motto of the SS, a UN employee. On the other arm, the tattoo was the face of an SS soldier wearing a Nazi hat and a collar with Nazi symbols. It's hard to see, but that's what he had on both of his arms. Let me repeat. Underneath a shirt bearing the UN emblem were markings which glorified the Nazis. Who is approving these people? Who is conducting their interviews? The presence of such disgusting symbols on UN personnel should shock every member of this Council. So let us be clear. When terrorists operate in active combat zones while using humanitarian vehicles as taxis, we will do whatever it takes to protect our soldiers and our citizens in accordance with our international obligations. That is the price of defending human life in a war Hamas started and refuses to end. Of course, this is not a one-off. It is part of Hamas's system. Just days ago, as some of you mentioned earlier, our forces carried out a precise strike on Hamas terrorists in Jabalia. These terrorists were hiding inside a command and control complex built inside an UNRWA clinic. This terror hub was used by Hamas's Jabalia battalion to plan and coordinate attacks against Israeli civilians and IDF forces. So what you do when you have a command center of terrorists, you attack them. Our strike was deliberate, intelligence-based operation. Prior to the strike, many steps were taken to reduce the chance of harming civilians, including aerial observation and additional intelligence verification. But the truth is, this council simply cannot relate to the complexity of the situation Israel faces. We are facing a terrorist organization that carried out the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, raping, murdering, and burning entire families alive. And today they continue to hold our people in tunnels, subjecting them to torture, starvation, and psychological torment. They promise to commit these atrocities again and again and again. Not only that, but Hamas's entire strategy depends on the Council reacting exactly as it is. They steal ATRACs. They launch rockets from hospitals and UN facilities. They mobilize in ambulances. Today, ask yourselves, how they go from one place to another? You can testify to that. Sometimes they force themselves, sometimes they infiltrate the organization. But they don't move with taxis, no Uber, no military. They use ambulances and UN vehicles. They exploit humanitarian infrastructure as a shield because they know this council will rush to blame Israel for responding. Hamas has studied the United Nations and built its war plan based on the UN's moral confusion. Once again, we are seeing this tactic play out. The UN didn't wait for an investigation for any of the incidents discussed today. It did not wait for verified evidence. It didn't check the facts. It rushed to the microphones to condemn Israel before knowing anything at all, while ignoring the terrorist organization using its resources for evil. There is no other country on earth subjected to this kind of treatment. So many of the actions and statements here are political theater. They are not out of concern for the well-being of Gazans, because if that was truly the priority, we would be discussing the mass anti-Hamas protests taking place inside Gaza. In the past 2 weeks, tens of thousands of Palestinians have taken to the streets, not to protest Israel, but to protest Hamas. In Jabalia, Rafah, Khan Yunis, Gaza City. Allow me to share with you the sounds filling the streets of Gaza over the past 48 hours. It will be in Arabic, so I welcome you to listen to the translator. In this audio, you can hear the incredible bravery of some Gazans, bravery which so many in this building are lacking. These brave people are chanting, Hamas itla bara, 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 bara. Hamas go out, 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 out. You can imagine how Hamas responded. Not with dialogue, not with reform, not by releasing our hostages and ending the war, but with public executions and torture. Uday al-Rubia, a 22-year-old from Gaza City, was kidnapped, beaten with iron rods, and dragged through the streets with a rope around his neck. What was his crime? Speaking out, organizing peaceful protests, demanding a future without Hamas. He was returned to his family moments before his death, broken and lifeless. Still, the mourners at Udai's funeral shouted in defiance against Hamas. Again, they shouted. Another brave young man, Hussam al-Majdalawi, was shot in the legs and abandoned in Uzarat Square. Mr. Mansour, these two young men, Udai and Hussam, have shown more bravery than you ever have. You speak here every time. For years, you still cannot bring yourself to even mention Hamas, let alone condemn them. How many times you have spoken in this council, but you cannot mention Hamas, you cannot tell them the truth. I ask you here and now, can you show some of the bravery of those young demonstrators? Can you condemn Hamas? Can you say Hamas, itla bara, 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 out, out, out? By your shameful silence, you stand with Hamas. By your shameful silence, you stand against the people of Gaza. By your shameful silence, you desecrate the UN Charter and its values. This Council and the entire UN has a choice to make. You can continue shielding Hamas under the cover of neutrality, or you can finally listen to the people of Gaza and support their cries for liberation from Hamas. You spoke about occupation of Gaza. I'm telling you here, and it's recorded, we have no intention to stay in Gaza. We left Gaza in 2005, completely. We didn't leave one community, not one soldier. We took out the cemeteries from Gaza. We left 20 years ago. We have no desire to go back. Distinguished colleagues, Israel will continue to defend its people. We will continue to take every measure possible to protect civilians and humanitarian workers, and we mourn every innocent life lost. However, we will never allow Hamas to rebuild under the false cover of human rights. Those days are long gone. We will not apologize for striking terrorist commanders. We will not hesitate to dismantle Hamas's terror machine, piece by piece, neighborhood by neighborhood, until the threat is gone. That is not our right. It is our obligation to our people, to our children, and to our future. Before I conclude, this war will not end on the UN's timeline. It will end when the 59 remaining hostages are released and Hamas is removed from power. There is no easy solution to a terrorist problem. There is no ceasefire agreement that can hold while innocent people remain in captivity. We are dealing with a vicious, sophisticated enemy with no red lines, no limits, no value for human life. We will do all that is necessary to defeat this dark force. We will act with determination until we bring back our hostages, every single one of them. Thank you, Mr. President.